So this is traveling as a solo black female. So when I was in Turkey, the things that I noticed as a solo black female traveler is that they believe a lot of black women to be ladies of the night. And I know some people may not want to hear that, but that is a thing. And I experienced that in Turkey and also Italy. When I was in Venice, that was a thing as well. They thought that a lot of the black women were ladies of the night. So when I was in Turkey, like I said in my last video, this guy backed up 30 feet after I said hi to him, but I kept walking and asked me, was I working? But then not only did that happen, and I just kind of brushed him off, I blew him off. There was a time when I was at the mall and there was a group of young boys that was at the mall and they were trying to call me over, but I didn't like how they were talking to me. Like I was going to answer them anyway, but especially what annoyed me was like, they were like they kiss at you like you're a dog. They're like, come here. And they'll start snapping their fingers. People will snap their fingers at you too and like kiss at you. And I'm like, nah, like that's not how you talk to somebody. Like if you were curious, like, oh, are you from America? Are you from this country or that country? I would have held a conversation, but to call me like that, I know what your intentions are and I don't like how you're calling me. So no, that's not going to be a thing. Also, as a black female solo traveler, be prepared for people to have questions about where you are from. What I mean by that is, like I told this guy, I was waiting for my taxi and he was just holding the conversation and he said to me, oh, what country are you from? I'm like, well, I'm from the United States. And he was like, no, I mean, what country are you actually from? And I said, I am from the United States. So he was like, well, are you sure it's not Africa? I'm like, well, I'm a descendant of someone from Africa, but I am born in the United States. He was like, well, what about your dad? And I'm like, well, my dad's Jamaican. And he was like, oh, okay, yeah, Jamaican. That makes sense, because he couldn't wrap his mind around me being from the United States. So like I noticed like in different countries, people have this idea of Americans just being white, and they don't really think of us as like American, I guess, because, you know, I think black, I think of Africa, you know, I guess I can understand the confusion, but that will be a thing. Like when you're overseas, like you'll get like that confusion. You're like, huh, that don't make any sense. So brace yourself. Don't be disgruntled about it. It is what it is. I kind of just like know that people don't, a lot of people, I want to add this too. A lot of people overseas do not know about the transatlantic slave trade. They don't, because when I was explaining to the man how like millions of black people arrived in the Americas, specifically North America, he was like, pretty much, I didn't even know that happened. So a lot of people don't even know that happened. And I think that's why they don't think of us being American. What else was I going to say? As a black solo female traveler, people will try to touch your hair. When I was in line, and this was in Atlanta, because I was at the Atlanta airport, this person like took because I had a hat that had braids attached to it. It looks like my natural hair, and someone like tugged at it and it kind of made me PO'd, but when I turned around, the person disappeared, so whatever. But the second incident I had with hair, I was actually in Turkey and I was at the airport in Istanbul, and there was an Iranian lady next to me, and she was with her family. She was with her husband and her 2 kids, and she came up to me and she started grabbing my braids, and she was like, oh, beautiful, beautiful. And I'm like, oh, thank you. Now I didn't take offense to it because I know that she was curious, but I also don't try to get too bent out of shape about like that, even though that is violating your space. I don't try to be hostile with my response, because we do have a reputation around the planet, and I don't want people to be like, oh, that's the behavior that they display about black people on TV, blah, 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 whatever. So I just, you know, and plus it's in my nature. I'm like, I know people are curious, so I don't really like, you know, get too bent out of shape about certain things, but that may happen. People will try to touch your hair. And I didn't have my hair like this, of course. I had it in braids, like I mentioned before. And especially if you have braids draw a lot of attention. So brace yourself with the type of hairstyle that you actually wear. I'm not saying like, oh, don't wear certain hairstyles. I'm just saying brace yourself, because certain hairstyles draw attention. Also, me traveling in Turkey, I noticed that there's there's certain things that you can't do. And one of the things that I didn't know till I got back, is talk about their leader. So I wasn't going to do it anyway, but they had an election when I was in Turkey, and I remember I didn't say anything bad, of course, because I don't have a foot in that fight. I don't have a dog in that fight. And I was just asking like, what's going on with the election? And I noticed one of the residents kind of in so many words told me to mind my business. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna mind my business. So I got back to the United States and I'm talking to my boyfriend, you know, Birdie's my boyfriend, and we're talking and he said, you know, I'm looking up what's going on with their election. They weren't like, you're not allowed to talk bad about their leader. So I guess like to avoid a conversation that could go in a certain direction, people avoided talking about the election and their leader. So with that being said, as a Black female solo traveler or just a female traveler period, do not talk about the leaders. Just mind your business. I know you can do your own research on it while you're there or when you're home or before you get there, but I would try to like stay away from talking about politics. I mean, I guess that's the same rules in the United States, but yeah, let's stay away from talking about politics. Excuse me, I got a yawn. I got a little ear infection. I got a lot going on. But anyway, so steer clear of that. As a Black female traveler, people will stare at you, and I got stares when I was in Turkey. I definitely got stares. Because like there are Black people that go to Turkey, but I noticed they're like African Black people, not Black Americans, especially because like I'm Black and I'm speaking English. They're like, oh, what's going on here? Because the one guy seen me in the elevator and I could tell he was in Turkey for hair surgery. You know, they have the hair transplant thing going on there. I think it's a transplant or hair transfer, something. The guy was like, yeah, your English is really good. And I'm like, yeah, I'm from the United States. And I noticed like, he kind of looked like, no, you're not. But he didn't like say too much. And we were talking in the elevator and then he like walked away. But people will be like, I feel like astonished in the sense that we speak English. I don't know. But anyway, I'm trying to think of what else. I should have wrote all the stuff that all my bullet points down that I wanted to touch base on as a Black female solo traveler. I feel like if someone pisses you off, like if they, like for example, racism. I know a lot of people wanted to talk about me to talk about racism. Okay, so there's going to be racism in different countries that you're in. But the thing is, some people can say that, oh, I didn't experience racism. But the catch-22 to that is if you're not speaking the language of the people that are there, how do you really know if they're being racist or not? They might have called you an N-word like 10 times and you probably don't know. So I'm not going to say I didn't experience any racism in Turkey because it could have happened and I just never had known because I don't understand what they're saying. But like blatant racism that I can understand, no. I didn't experience that too much. But I will say that people will try to butt in front of you in Turkey if you're a foreigner. Like, it's like I noticed this one woman see me and she like butt in front of me. I said, excuse you. That I actually did confront someone about. Like, you ain't gonna cut in front of me. Like, you better. Like, anyway. But they'll try to cut in front of you. And that also happened to me with French people. I haven't been to Paris, but I noticed French people, like, they're you know, they're a little rude, but whatever. Anyway. Yeah, so brace yourself for that. Watch out for that. Keep your eyes peeled for that. What else happens as a Black female traveler? People just want to get to know you from my experiences. And where have I been? I should have listed that at the beginning. I've been to Turkey, which is my recent trip. I've been to Italy. I've been to Norway. I've been to Jamaica, of course. I've been, of course, the United States. Where else have I been? I've been to, Austria. I've been to quite some places, you know. But yeah, I lost my train of thought for a second. Yeah, but being a Black female solo traveler has its perks and its downfall. Like, people would love to talk to you. Some people may be afraid, or some people probably never seen a Black person up in front of them. Like, it happens, especially if you venture away from like the cities or wherever you are from that speak English. That will happen. But if you guys have any questions, do not hesitate. Put them down in the comment section below because I love engaging with my audience. All right, y'all. Betty Confetti. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.